Om Shanti. Good evening. My name is Greg. The title of tonight's class is, If you plan on changing, the time is now. If you plan on changing, the time is now. As a matter of fact, there's never been a better opportunity to change, and perhaps there's never been more of a need to change and now. Why is that? Well, it's an auspicious time. It's 2020. And that reminds me, at the beginning of the year, I had planned a series of lectures that I was going to give on having 2020 vision in 2020. And I was going to start right about now because I had assumed, or kind of in my own mind predicted, that we'd start to see a lot of changes and things happening somewhere around September. But boy, was I wrong. I thought I was way out. It turns out that I was much too conservative. The changes started right from day one of 2020 with Australia on fire, and then we went right into a global pandemic that affected every single human being on this planet. Just think about that. Every single human being on this planet has been affected. How many things are that powerful? And it hasn't stopped yet, and it's not going to stop any time in the near future. As a matter of fact, I heard one of the experts say we're still in the midst of the first wave of the pandemic. Sobering thoughts. So that in itself is a reason that to implement change and change now. It didn't stop there. That had morphed itself right into social unrest. And so we have society, in fact, at each other's throats. Enmity between people is increasing every day. And it's strange that we're dividing up in this thing when the pandemic makes people be universal. It's really an unsolicited democratic experience. We're all being forced to adhere to something all at the same time. And it's that very thing that we're being forced to that's creating so much tension and angst inside of people. As a matter of fact, when you see these people exploding at Walmart because someone asking them to wear a mask, and people even going as far as bringing out a gun to avoid wearing a mask, it's not because they're bad or they belong to a certain political party. It's that they're totally unprepared for the change that's taking place. It's caught them flat-footed. Their world was exactly how they wanted it, or perhaps not how they wanted it, but just managing to keep on just the way it was, and one more thing throws it all off, and then all this starts spewing out of the soul. All this stuff, this unconscious angst and anger and frustration, all the unrequited feelings are now coming out, and it's going to continue to come out for some time. It's not over. So while you still have time, the time to change is now. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a little quote I thought of. If you want a fantastic future, live in the now. If you want a fantastic future, be in the now, now. And what I mean by now is this very moment. And this very moment doesn't have to do with it's kind of, we're celebrating Independence Day tomorrow. And so what a better time to become independent. Let's celebrate independence with my own personal independence by not putting my happiness as conditioned to what's happening around me. Something that I've said before is you can't control the chaos outside of your own mind, but you can implement change to limit the chaos inside your own mind. And that's what we have to do. So now that we've seen what the problem is, what the status quo is, change is absolutely necessary. I hope you get that much. Change is absolutely necessary. Attitudes have to change. And for that to happen, thoughts have to change. If attitudes are to change, thoughts have to change first. So a real time for observation, and what a better time. So many people aren't able to go do what they want. And even if you are working, many people aren't, you're not able to go to the places and have the freedom to go where you want. Like for this weekend, a weekend that most people go to the beaches are closed. And this is a good thing. You might not even be able to get together with family. This is also a good thing from a certain perspective, from the perspective of let's survive. So can you not give up what you want this moment, the desire that you have at this moment for a higher good, the good of your own well-being, the good for the well-being of your family, and the good for the well-being of your family, the other citizens of this planet. It just has to be done. So what happens when it's all over? Well, if it's over, one thing's for certain, your life will never be the same as it was before this pandemic started. There's people that are very upset over that out there. You might be one of them. And the reason is we don't have space inside of us. So that's what we have to do. We have to create space. One of the best ways to do that, I've alluded to already, by being in the now, by living in the present moment. We only have three aspects of time. There's three aspects of time: past, present, and future. Those are the three aspects of time. I'm living in the now. So let me not get involved with thinking about what might happen in the future. Let me not drag with me the past that I've had, because that, when I'm dragging the past, I can't go forward. And when I'm worried about the future, I'm afraid of what's going to happen. So my now is very anxiety filled. So by just think of it in a logical way, a practical way, maybe a mathematical way. Past, present, future. That's 1/3 for each. So by living in the now, I'm saving 66% of my energy by concentrating on what I can do in this moment. That reminds me of a story from a chapter in the Gita, an old scripture, if you're familiar with that. Some of you might be, where the seeker is told by the knower, do the best action that's in front of you, but don't be attached to the results of that action. In other words, do the best thing that you can do now. Be in the now. Do the best thing that you can do now. But you have no control over the results that are happening, so be detached from the fruits of those actions. Do the action because it's the right thing to do. Like, put on a mask. Maybe you don't feel like putting on a mask. Maybe it's too hot. Maybe you want to go to the beach, but you don't, because you understand that that's the best thing that you do. And that gives me confidence for the future. It's really time to wake up. How many times are you going to hit that snooze button before you wake up? Maybe you've already woke. Maybe you're already woke. That's a term they use today. Congratulations. Continue to do so until you don't feel angst. So a lot of observation of the self is necessary in order to do this, to find out what needs to be cleaned up. As a matter of fact, do you think the answers are out there somewhere? Or do you think that somewhere inside of you, you have everything you need? I'm of that way of thinking. I believe every soul has ingrained in it every quality that it possibly needs to be strong, happy, in harmony, work with everything. We all have that inside of us. It's just that we also have collected a lot of alloy through time. a lot of unnecessary opinions, judgments, misidentifications, and all these things have created such a mass of thoughts that we don't know how to look for our true self, our more pure self. So what's necessary, again, is not just something that I'd like, it's something that's absolutely necessary, is clear, pure thought. I need to create space. And all I think of my work on myself is being just housekeeping. That I don't have to worry about learning so much. I just have to keep cleaning out my mind by removing what's unnecessary. And the main method of removing is by concentrating on what it is that I want. Maintain a pure, positive vision of yourself. Don't look at the negative, because guess what? It will come to you right away. The moment you start making effort to see yourself in the best possible light and to see all your good qualities, all the other thoughts will come. So you say, well, what about this? And what about that? Remember how you were about this? That will all happen. And my advice there is just acknowledge that thought, that it's come, and let it pass. I say to myself, okay, that's a thought. Maybe even I have to deal with you, but I'll do that later, because right now I'm feeding the soul. I'm giving myself something. I'm feeding myself with pure, positive energy. So let's do a little bit of that right now. If you've listened to a few of the classes that I've had before, I've always done a little prep work just to get started. So I want to continue with that. So I'm seated on the floor. You can sit in a chair. The main thing is that you get a nice straight spine, and you sit in a comfortable position that you could be in for a few minutes without having to move around. I feel pretty good there. So first thing I want you to do, open your mouth and exhale all the air out of your body. Then take an inhale. Exhale out your mouth again. I really invite you to do this like if you were 7 years old and you just follow along and you like it. Don't feel funny about doing things. One more time. Now let your mouth close and breathe in through the nose. And let out the nose. Do that again. Inhale deeply. Continue to breathe, and I'll offer a few thoughts. And the first thought is the same thought that I always have, and that is silence. Just remind yourself that the best frame of mind right now is silence. Just breathe and be silent. You can feel the breath slowing down. Maybe you're aware of the heartbeat relaxing, that's slowing down. And perhaps you can even recognize that the thoughts are slowing as well. And that's really the goal, is the slowing of thoughts, the minimizing of thoughts, a way of editing the mind by not giving energy to what is not necessary at this moment. This is meditation. This is yoga. I'm learning to connect with a part of myself that I may not necessarily be doing enough to meet the call of time. The call of time, I can hear it. It's telling me the time to change is now. It's time to connect to my true nature. And in the silence, I can recognize that. And my true nature is peace. My true nature is peace. This is empowering. Om Shanti. See, it's just little things like that. Taking a moment, taking a minute. You could call it a control of the traffic of your thoughts. Traffic control of the mind. So they don't get too far out. And that's what's really important. Like, I'm okay in my home and I feel pretty good. But then when I go out there and start to drive and people might cut me off and I see angry people and I have to interact, and then there's a huge line at the drive-through of something that I need to go to, I begin to be affected by these things that are happening out the outside, and I lose my stage. So I constantly have to come back to remind myself not to get carried away into the outer, but to work on this from this silent, peaceful place inside of me, because this is the change that I need to make to remain relevant in life. Because whatever is awaiting us when we go back to what's called normal life, it's not going to be the way that it was beforehand. We need to adapt new skills, new methods. And what better way than to be flexible and strong? Flexible and strong in the mind. In Hatha Yoga, people learn to be flexible and strong in the body. In Raja Yoga, you learn to be flexible and strong in the mind as well, so that you can interact and move and be happy. If you plan on changing, the time to do it is now. Om Shanti.